Earth was moving through a normal day when everything changed. It started with a small flicker on every screen. Phones, TVs, billboards, space station monitors, even the holograms in government halls. People thought it was a system error. But then the flicker turned into a sharp alarm sound, something no one had ever heard before. The sound went deep into the bones, cold and strange. Suddenly, every screen on Earth forced itself on. No one could turn it off. A symbol appeared, an unfamiliar, alien mark glowing in red. People stopped walking, stopped talking. Streets became quiet. Homes became silent. Space stations froze mid-operation. Everyone stared at the symbol, waiting. Then the broadcast began. A dark alien chamber appeared on screen. It was huge, built with sharp metal pillars and strange blue flames. In the center were humans, thousands of them, scared, injured, chained. They were from Earth's outer colonies. Families, workers, children, people who had left Earth years ago to help build life across the stars. A deep voice echoed across every speaker on Earth. It belonged to the Vorkai Dominion, a cruel alien empire known for fear, but never for open attack. "We show you this," the alien leader declared, "because you must understand your place in the galaxy." The camera moved up, and the world stopped breathing. Behind the chained humans, giant execution machines stood waiting. And behind those machines, rows and rows of even more prisoners. 10 million humans. 10 million lives. 10 million screams ready to rise. Earth watched in horror as the alien leader raised his hand. "You exist without permission," he said. "Today we remove you." The execution machines activated. The scream that rose across the broadcast was not just from the prisoners. It came from Earth itself. People collapsed on the streets. Parents grabbed their screens and cried as they saw their children, their siblings, their friends. Governments tried to cut the signal, but nothing worked. The broadcast was stronger than human systems. Death filled the screens. Smoke, fire, silence. The Vorkai soldiers laughed. They pushed the camera closer to a small human girl, maybe 7 years old. She was weak, injured, but still alive. The alien leader grabbed her chin and forced her face toward the camera. "Let the humans watch their future," he said. But something happened then. Something small, something only humans could understand. The girl blinked. Not randomly. Not in fear. She blinked in a pattern. Short blink, long blink, long blink, short blink. Morse code. A forgotten, old human signal. Her eyes said, "Don't forgive us. Fight." People across Earth saw it. Soldiers saw it. Leaders saw it. Engineers saw it. And in that moment, something powerful awakened inside the human race. The Vorkai thought the broadcast would break Earth. Instead, it lit a fire humanity had not felt in centuries. The broadcast ended with a final message from the Vorkai leader. "Remember this day. Your story ends here." Then the screen went black. For a moment, the world was silent. Not a whisper. Not a breath. Humans stood frozen in pain, shock, and pure rage. The silence lasted almost 1 full minute. A minute that felt like the longest moment in Earth's history. Finally, every emergency siren on Earth activated at the same time. Red lights filled every city. Armored doors locked. Military satellites shifted position. Space fleets were awakened. Hidden war factories came online. A voice echoed from Earth's emergency command. "Activate Project Black Star." Most civilians did not know what that meant, but the leaders did. It was Earth's final defense protocol, a plan created long ago but never used. A plan meant only for one thing: total retaliation. Inside underground bunkers, generals and scientists gathered. They did not argue. They did not hesitate. They replayed the girl's last message, over and over again. Her blinking eyes reflected in every commander's face. The president of Earth stood before the global fleet officers. He looked tired, broken, but something strong burned behind his eyes. "They killed 10 million of our people," he said softly. "We will not forget. We will not forgive. We will not stop." Space engineers unlocked sealed hangars in orbit. Massive ship doors opened, revealing black metal giants. The Black Star warships, the most powerful weapons humans had ever created. Until this day, no one outside Top Command even knew they existed. The ships hummed with deep energy. Their armor glowed like burning stone. Each one was a symbol of human anger, human loss, and human power. The galaxy did not know it yet, but humanity had just crossed a line that could not be repaired, reversed, or forgiven. Earth released one final message to the stars. We saw the broadcast. We are coming. Soldiers across Earth prepared. Engineers cried while working. Pilots sat in their ships, shaking with emotion but ready. Humanity was no longer peaceful. Humanity was no longer patient. Humanity was awake. And the Vorkai Dominion had made the greatest mistake in the galaxy's history. Earth was no longer the same planet after the broadcast. People did not joke, did not smile, did not sleep. Streets stayed silent. But inside every home, every base, every ship, fire was burning. A fire made from pain, anger, and something far stronger, unity. But while Earth prepared for war, the rest of the galaxy panicked. The Galactic Council, a group of old alien civilizations who always claimed to maintain peace, called an emergency session. They had watched the same broadcast, but their fear was not for the dead humans. Their fear was for Earth. They knew what humans were capable of when pushed beyond the limit. Inside the council chamber, tall alien representatives shouted in different voices, "Humans must not strike back. If they release their Black Star fleet, the galaxy will shake. They must stay calm. We must stop them." For the first time, the council sent a message directly to Earth's high command. Their transmission appeared on massive screens inside Earth's war bunker. The council speaker, a blue-skinned creature with long silver eyes, spoke with a trembling voice. "Earth, please stand down. Do not act in anger. We will negotiate with the Vorkai. We ask you to wait." "Wait?" Earth's general stared at the message with cold eyes. Millions had died on live broadcast. Children had begged with their last breath. And the council wanted Earth to wait? The president of Earth did not reply immediately. He stood in front of the silent command room. The broadcast replayed behind him. The screaming, the smoke, the little girl blinking the message, "Fight." He finally spoke to the council. "Did you stop them before they killed 10 million of our people?" Silence. "Did you try to protect our colonies?" Silence. "Did you do anything at all before they erased entire families?" The council speaker lowered his head. "We did not act fast enough." On Earth, this answer felt like a betrayal. Humans had once trusted the council. They believed the galaxy wanted peace. Now they saw the truth. The council feared the Vorkai, so they stayed silent. But now they feared humans even more. The president ended the call with only one line. "Your time to help is over." Earth cut the connection. While political chaos spread across the galaxy, Earth's secret war machine continued waking up deep inside orbital shipyards. The Black Star fleet was almost ready. Workers had bloodshot eyes from exhaustion, but no one stopped. No one complained. Every screw they tightened, every engine they activated, was done with shaking hands, but with powerful hearts. Third-person view shifts to Admiral Rian Solis, commander of the Black Star Armada. He stood on the bridge of the flagship, HSS Oblivion, staring at the stars ahead. His family had been on Colony Delta 23, one of the first destroyed in the broadcast. He had not spoken to anyone since watching them die. But his silence held more meaning than words ever could. Engineers approached him. "Sir, all ships report ready status." "Admiral," Solis nodded once. No speech. No dramatic declaration. Just a quiet breath, heavy with 10 million souls. Outside Earth's orbit, thousands of civilian ships gathered to watch. They weren't forced. People came voluntarily. They wanted to witness the moment humanity stood up. Parents held pictures of lost children. Old soldiers saluted from broken homes. Students, workers, farmers, everyone watched the black warships glow against the darkness of space. The sky felt tense, like a storm waiting to strike. Suddenly, a new transmission arrived, this time from the Vorkai Dominion. But it wasn't a threat. It wasn't a demand. It was a laugh. The Vorkai leader appeared on screen again, smiling cruelly. "Humans," he said, "you are emotional animals. You cannot hurt us. If you try, your own world will burn." On Earth, no one flinched. The president only said, "Mute it." The screen switched off. Earth did not need to hear more lies. Far across the galaxy, alien empires watched in fear as humanity prepared. Some whispered apologies. Some whispered prayers. Some whispered the ancient words no one had spoken in centuries. "Do not anger the children of Earth." Meanwhile, the Council made one last desperate attempt. They sent a team of diplomats to Earth's orbit, begging for a meeting. Their ship hovered near the Black Star Fleet, tiny and harmless. They pleaded, "Please, do not launch your armada. You must allow us to create a peaceful path." But Admiral Solis turned to them with calm, empty eyes. "You had a chance to protect peace," he said softly. "You chose silence." The Council diplomats tried again. "If you destroy the Vorkai, the consequences will spread across the galaxy." Solis replied, "They destroyed 10 million of our people. The consequences have already begun." His voice was so quiet, yet heavier than any weapon. The diplomats knew it was over. Humanity had chosen its path. Inside the HSS Oblivion, engines roared to life. Every Black Star warship echoed with the same rising thunder. Lights across the fleet turned crimson, the color of retribution. Earth gave a final message to the galaxy, broadcast on every frequency. "We do not seek war. We seek justice. And justice is coming." The Armada prepared to jump. Millions on Earth watched with tears and pride. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Black Star Fleet vanished into hyperspace. The galaxy fell silent, because everyone knew humanity was on the move, and someone was about to pay for 10 million lost lives. The Black Star Fleet shot through hyperspace like a silent storm, leaving behind the blue glow of Earth. Inside their ships, no one spoke loudly. Voices stayed low. Movement stayed controlled. Every soul carried the same weight. The faces of 10 million lost. Admiral Rian Solis stood in the center of the HSS Oblivion's command bridge. The room was dim, lit only by soft blue lights reflecting off polished black surfaces. Each screen displayed the positions of the other Black Star vessels, 1,000 warships drifting through hyperspace like shadows of vengeance. But Solis was not looking at the screens. He was staring at the hollow image of his family, his wife and 2 small sons, frozen in a smiling moment recorded years ago. The same image he saw in the broadcast when their colony burned. His fingers hovered near the projection, but he never touched it. He just watched. A soft voice broke the silence. "Admiral, long-range scanners are detecting movement." Solis blinked and turned toward his officers. "What kind of movement?" The officer swallowed. "Multiple signatures. Heading toward our location." The bridge tightened with tension. Everyone knew this moment was coming. The Vorkai Dominion was too arrogant to let humans approach their space without resistance. But no one expected the enemy to make the first move this fast. When the fleet exited hyperspace, the stars appeared cold, sharp, endless. Beneath them, a vast stretch of empty black space waited. But it wasn't empty. It was an ambush. Vorkai warships, thousands of them, spread across the darkness like a steel ocean. Their crimson engines pulsed like heartbeats. Their cannons glowed with blue fire. The alien flagship stood in the center, shaped like a floating blade. A message arrived. The Vorkai commander appeared on every human ship screen, smiling with sick amusement. "So, the insects crawl to our empire," he taunted. "You bring many ships. It will not matter." No one on the Black Star Fleet reacted. No fear. No anger. Only cold silence. The alien commander leaned closer. "You watched your people die. Now watch yourselves die. Slowly." The transmission ended with mocking laughter. The bridge crew waited for Solis to respond. But Solis did nothing. He did not shout. He did not rage. He simply whispered, "Weapons online." His voice was so soft that several officers barely heard it. But that single command detonated across the fleet like thunder. The Black Star warships shifted formation. Armor plates locked. Massive cannons rotated. Engines glowed brighter, turning from blue to deep violet. The mark of overcharge mode. Every alien in the Vorkai fleet expected humans to hesitate. They thought Earth was still grieving, still recovering, still weak. They had no idea that grief can turn into something far more dangerous. The Vorkai fired first. Bright beams of energy sliced through space, heading straight for the Oblivion. "Brace!" an officer shouted. But the beams never reached the ship. A circular shield of black light erupted around the Oblivion, swallowing the attack like it was nothing. The energy vanished into the shield's surface, leaving no mark. A deadly silence fell across the alien fleet. What was that? A Vorkai captain screamed in panic. The humans finally responded, not with words, with fire. Admiral Solis lifted his hand. Return fire. The Black Star Armada opened up with full power. Not one ship, not 10 ships. The entire 1,000-ship fleet fired at once. Bright white energy surged through space. It wasn't like normal plasma or laser fire. This light bent, cut, and folded space itself. When it reached the Vorkai ships, the effect was instant. 100 alien warships vanished. No explosion. No wreckage. They simply ceased to exist. The galaxy had never seen human weapons like this. Even Earth's allies had no idea these ships were possible. Fear spread through the enemy ranks. What kind of technology? They cannot have this power. This is impossible. But it was too late. Human vengeance had already begun. In the chaos, a strange signal pinged across the Oblivion sensors. "Admiral, something is wrong," said the ship's data officer. "We are detecting distortions." Solis frowned. Distortions of what? The officer's voice shook. Space-time. Around us. A new reading appeared. Then another. Then hundreds. Every alien scout ship, every interceptor, every stealth drone the Vorkai had hidden in the darkness, disappeared from radar. Just gone. Not destroyed. Not cloaked. Gone like they never existed. The bridge crew stared at the data, confused and alarmed. Solis finally asked, "What does this mean?" The officer whispered. They had a secondary trap. Something bigger. Something they didn't want us to see. As the surviving Vorkai ships retreated, the stars in front of the fleet began to twist. Space warped. A massive gravitational wave spread outward. Something enormous was waking up in the darkness. The Vorkai Dominion had not just planned an ambush. They had prepared a monster. Admiral Solis stared at the shifting starfield. His voice stayed calm. "All ships, prepare for unknown contact." Humanity had taken its first step into enemy territory. But the enemy was ready to answer. And the next move would decide the fate of entire civilizations. The stars twisted like liquid metal. Space groaned. Even the engines of the Black Star fleet shuddered under the pressure. Whatever the Vorkai had awakened, it was not a normal weapon. It was something ancient. Admiral Rian Solis stood motionless on the command bridge of the HSS Oblivion, watching as a massive shadow slowly formed out of the distorted light. His officers stared in disbelief. What is that?" whispered one. The scanner struggled to process the shape. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It was a floating structure made of black stone and red energy veins, like a planet-sized fortress carved by nightmares. A name appeared on the scanners. The Harrowing Sphere, VORKI's superweapon. The Vorkai commander reappeared on every human screen, smiling with wicked pride. "Humans," he hissed. "You thought we were afraid of your tiny ships? Your little anger? We have crushed empires older than your sun. You are nothing but noisy children." The sphere opened like a giant metal flower. In its core, thousands of glowing orbs pulsed, each one filled with captured energy. Energy stolen from species the Vorkai had erased long before humanity reached the stars. The alien commander continued. "Your grief is amusing. Your pain makes us laugh. You cannot win. You cannot even survive. Watch now, humans, watch and break." He raised his hand. Inside the sphere, the orbs connected with chains of red lightning. The power grew. Space vibrated. Even the Black Star Fleet began to drift out of formation. Earth had never seen such a weapon. But Admiral Solis only whispered, "Steady." The Vorkai fired. A colossal beam of crimson energy shot across space, wide as a mountain range and bright enough to blind sensors. It tore through the darkness, aimed directly at the Black Star Armada. The Oblivion shook as the beam hit the fleet's shields. "Shields holding at 90%, replied a tactician. The Vorkai commander blinked, confused. Humans didn't fall? Humans didn't burn? Humans didn't even move? The sphere fired again. And again. And again. Space exploded with red light. Alien warships cheered, believing humans must be dying. But when the light faded, the Black Star Fleet still floated silently, shields glowing like dim halos. Not one human ship was damaged. The bridge of the Oblivion was calm. Officers breathed slowly, ready. Admiral Solis studied the sphere with cold eyes. "They think we will break," he murmured. "They believe grief makes us weak." He looked at his crew. They do not understand humans. On the Vorkai flagship, panic spread. Why aren't they falling? The sphere should tear planets apart. Fire again. More power. But the sphere couldn't stop humanity's resolve. Not today. Not after 10 million deaths. The Vorkai commander screamed, "You should be dust. Why are you still standing?" The human reply was simple. "Because we are not done." Admiral Solis lifted his hand, and the Black Star Armada answered. The humans didn't fire randomly. They fired with precision. Every Black Star cannon focused on a single glowing orb inside the sphere. "Target the energy conduits," Solis ordered. Weapons locked. Fire. The fleet unleashed a coordinated strike. Thousands of white beams pierced space and crashed into the sphere's core. Something cracked. The structure trembled. The Vorkai commander's smile finally vanished. Impossible. You could not harm the sphere. But the truth was brutal. Humans had analyzed the sphere's weaknesses in seconds. Every time Solis looked at the sphere, he remembered his family. Every time a human engineer calculated firing patterns, they thought of the broadcast. Every time a pilot touched the controls, they saw the image of the little girl blinking fight. Human sorrow had hardened into something unbreakable. Another volley fired. This time the sphere screamed, an echo that shook every ship in the region. Scanners flashed red. Critical damage detected. The Vorkai commander slammed his fist into his console. "No. No. This cannot be. We are the Dominion. We are feared." He turned toward the enslaved alien workers operating the sphere's interior systems. "Boost the core power. Now!" One elderly alien slave stared back with hollow, hopeless eyes. "For thousands of years, you killed our children," he whispered. "But humans came for their own." He placed his hand on the overload switch and smiled through tears. "For once someone is here to stop you." He triggered the overload. The sphere convulsed. Energy surged uncontrollably. Cracks of red lightning spread across its surface. Chunks of its armored exterior broke away. The core roared like a dying star. Inside the Oblivion, officers froze. "Admiral, the sphere is about to explode." Solis nodded. "All ships, pull back 20,000 kilometers. Now!" The Black Star Fleet moved in perfect unity, engines firing as one. The Vorkai fleet tried to flee, terrified. But the sphere was too close. Too unstable. Light gathered in its center, bright enough to whiten space. Then, boom! The harrowing sphere detonated like a collapsing sun. A wave of energy shredded the Vorkai ships that hadn't escaped in time. The shockwave washed across space, lighting the darkness like a burning dawn. When it cleared, only the Black Star Fleet remained. Untouched, silent, unbroken. Admiral Solis stared at the fading debris. His voice was low. "They think humans will break," he said. He turned toward his crew. "They have no idea what we become when we rise." Earth sent out one message across every frequency. "We are coming for the Dominion next." The galaxy trembled, because humanity had just defeated the Vorkai's strongest weapon. And now nothing stood between the Black Star Armada and the enemy homeworld. The remains of the harrowing sphere drifted through space like burning ash. The Black Star fleet moved silently past the debris, its engines whispering with controlled power. Every human on board knew what came next. The Vorkai home system, the heart of the Empire, the place where the broadcast had been created, the place where 10 million humans had died. Admiral Rian Solis stood on the bridge of the Oblivion, staring at the star map. The Vorkai homeworld, Crothuan, glowed red on the hologram like a bleeding wound. Ite! 2 hours, an officer reported. Solis nodded, but he did not speak. He was thinking, remembering, preparing. The fleet cut through hyperspace and entered the Crothuan system. What they saw was unlike anything in human history. A massive fortress world surrounded by shipyards shaped like metal claws. Black towers rose from the planet's surface, each one sending out energy pulses. Giant statues of Vorkai warlords floated in orbit, their faces twisted with arrogance. But something felt wrong. The closer the Black Star fleet drew, the more sensors picked up strange signals. Low-frequency vibrations, echoes, whispers. "What is that sound?" an officer asked. Another officer listened carefully. His face turned pale. "Sir, it's screaming." The room froze. "Screaming?" Solis repeated quietly. The officer swallowed. Millions of voices, crying, from inside the planet. The Vorkai hadn't just built a fortress. They had built a prison. As the fleet advanced, they detected giant underground structures. The scans revealed horrifying layouts, rows of cages, chambers, pits, and energy extraction tubes stretching for miles. "Are those living beings inside?" someone whispered. A silent nod answered. Solis spoke softly. "Open a secure channel, and put the scans on every screen." When the images appeared, the officers fell silent. Inside the underground chambers were thousands, no, millions of alien prisoners. Different species, different ages, some too weak to stand, some too scared to speak. All broken. Their energy was being drained, their minds shackled, their bodies used as fuel for Vorkai weapons. It was not a planet. It was a graveyard built on top of living bones. As the Oblivion scanned deeper, the horror grew. Children locked in metallic nests. Elderly creatures chained to walls, whispering old prayers. Entire families kept alive for centuries, forced to watch each other suffer. And then, in one chamber, the humans saw a symbol painted in old, fading human blood, the symbol of Earth. One of the prisoners, a thin alien with glowing eyes, looked up at the ceiling. His lips trembled as he whispered. The humans came, finally. Solis' heart tightened. The bridge crew looked shattered. 10 million humans had died on broadcast, but millions of others had died for centuries, silently, unseen, forgotten. The Vorkai had built an empire of torment, and now they would answer for all of it. Suddenly, a transmission forced itself onto the human screens. The Vorkai leader stood on his throne, surrounded by monstrous guards. His voice echoed with fury. "Humans! You destroy our sphere, our fleets, and now you trespass into holy space. Do you think you are saviors? You are fools. These creatures you see are nothing. They are tools. Their suffering keeps our empire strong." He raised his claws. "And soon we will harvest your races the same way." But something unexpected happened. Behind him, deep in the shadows of the throne room, a small alien child appeared. Thin, barefoot, terrified, holding a broken chain in her tiny hands. She looked up into the camera, not at the Vorkai, at the humans. Her voice was weak but clear. "Please do not stop. Do not leave. End them." The Vorkai leader whirled around in rage. "You little parasite." But before he could strike, the child flinched and whispered again. "Humans, please." The screen went black. The bridge of the Oblivion was silent. Solis closed his eyes for a moment, a long, trembling moment. Then he opened them. "Prepare landing teams." The officers stared at him. "Sir, the entire surface is fortified." "I know." "Sir, the enemy has millions of soldiers." "I know." "Then why risk landing?" Solis looked at the image of the imprisoned child still frozen on the screen. His voice was calm. Because someone asked us not to stop. The Black Star Fleet lowered its weapons and focused them downward, targeting weak points in the planet's defense systems. Precision shots disabled shield generators and cracked fortress towers. Human dropships prepared for descent. Soldiers stood ready, armor glowing with faint blue pulses. But these soldiers weren't just warriors. They were carrying the memories of 10 million dead humans, and the cries of millions more trapped in darkness. One soldier whispered before boarding. For every voice that screamed, another whispered. For every child who couldn't fight, another. For the girl who blinked fight before dying. Admiral, Solis watched them board. He didn't need to give a speech. Every soldier already knew why they were fighting. The fleet descended toward Crofthwin. The Vorkai homeworld roared with fire. Somewhere underground, millions of enslaved beings lifted their heads for the first time in centuries. Because they felt something they had forgotten long ago. Hope. And they whispered a single word, spreading from cell to cell, heart to heart, across the entire prison world. Humans. The skies of Crofthwin burned. Human dropships sliced through the smoke like silver arrows while the Black Star Fleet held position above the planet, watching every movement across the surface. The Vorkai army scrambled below, millions of soldiers rushing out of fortresses, screaming commands, raising weapons. But something strange happened. They weren't preparing for a normal battle. They were preparing for panic. The Vorkai had never faced an enemy like humanity, never faced a species that marched into the heart of terror without shaking, never faced warriors driven not by conquest, but by grief and justice. Inside the underground prison chambers, the enslaved aliens heard the explosions. Dust fell from ceilings. Chains rattled. But this time, the noise didn't bring fear. It brought hope. A mother with cracked skin whispered to her child, "Listen, do you hear them? Humans. They are here." For the first time in centuries, hope had a sound. On the surface, Admiral Rhee and Solis marched with the first landing team, a rare act for a commander of his rank. But he refused to stay behind. Everything inside him demanded he be here, on the ground, at the place where 10 million humans had been condemned. Human forces advanced in flawless formation. Their armor glowed a calm blue, reflecting no rage, no hatred, only purpose. A Vorkai general rode toward them on a towering beast, roaring, "You dare step on our sacred world? You dare threaten us?" Solis didn't raise his weapon. He didn't even stop walking. He simply said, "You murdered our people and called it sacred." The Vorkai general screamed in fury and charged. Before the beast reached Solis, a human soldier fired once. The creature fell. The general fell. Silence followed. Because the humans did not celebrate victory. They did not cheer. They only continued forward. Inside a huge underground chamber, Solis and his team finally reached the heart of the prison world. When the doors opened, even the most battle-hardened soldiers froze. The chamber stretched endlessly, rows of cages stacked on top of each other, like a maze of suffering. Creatures from dozens of species reached out with weak hands. Their eyes were hollow, their bodies thin, their voices broken. One elderly alien whispered, barely standing, Are you real? Has someone come?" Solis stepped forward. "Yes, humanity has come." A hush spread through the chamber, disbelief melting into tears. One of the freed prisoners, a tall reptilian elder, touched Solis's arm with shaking fingers. "You crossed the stars, not for conquest but for us?" he asked. Solis nodded once. "For all of you." The elder fell to his knees, crying silently. The sound echoed through the chamber, mixing with whispers of relief that traveled through every corridor. But then, a deep tremor shook the planet. Alarms blared. The Vorkai Emperor had activated the planetary core defense, a device capable of turning Crofthwin into a giant explosive star. If the Vorkai couldn't keep their empire, they would destroy everything, even themselves. A massive screen flickered on. The Emperor's monstrous face appeared. "You think you have won? Humans, we control the core. Press a single command, and this world ends. And you along with it." Solis stared at the screen, silent. The Emperor continued. You cannot save these creatures. You cannot save yourselves. And you cannot defeat us without wiping out every soul on this planet, including the prisoners you pity. The threat hung in the air like poison. This was the moment that would define humanity, destroy the planet, end the Vorkai forever. Or spare the planet, let the Vorkai rebuild, risk future genocide. A choice between justice and mercy, between vengeance and morality. The human officers looked toward Solis. Every soldier awaited his words. But before Solis could speak, a sound rose behind him. Tens of thousands of prisoners were gathering near the blast doors. Their voices shook, but their message was clear. End it. One whispered. Do not hesitate, said another. Do not let them hurt more children ever again. A small alien child stepped forward, the same child they had seen in the throne room broadcast. Her voice was soft but steady. Humans, please. If you don't stop them now, they will do this to others. They will do it again. We are already dying, but you can save the galaxy. Silence filled the cavern. The entire human landing force watched Solis. Finally, he spoke. We do not choose between vengeance and mercy. He stepped forward, voice firm. We choose protection. For all lives that remain. He turned to his officers. Evacuate every prisoner you can. Move them to the surface. Get them to the ships. And the core device, sir? An officer asked. Solis looked upward, toward the center of the planet. We disable it. The officer blinked. Sir, no one has ever disabled a Vorkai core system. It's impossible. Solis answered with quiet certainty. Everything is impossible until humanity tries. As evacuation teams rushed through underground tunnels, human engineers raced toward the core. Time was running out. The planet shook harder. Lava flows cracked open the floors. Vorkai soldiers fought desperately but were overwhelmed by human precision. Inside the core chamber, the engineers saw it. A giant sphere of unstable red energy, suspended above a pit of molten fire. One mistake would vaporize the entire world. But the team did not hesitate. For every freed life, for every lost human, for every species that still lived in fear, they started the work. And above them, on the surface, Admiral Solis delivered Earth's final message. We do not destroy because we are angry. We destroy only when the galaxy must be protected. The decision was made. Humanity would end the Vorkai, but they would do it the right way. Crothuan was dying. Thunder rolled through the planet's cracked crust as the Vorkai core device spiraled toward meltdown. Red lightning raced through the sky. Towers collapsed. Fortresses sank into the ground. The Vorkai Empire, once proud and cruel, was crumbling under its own monstrous creation. But humanity was not running. Humanity was saving. Evacuation ships filled the air, carrying thousands, then tens of thousands, of freed prisoners toward the Black Star fleet above. Human soldiers carried weak bodies in their arms. Engineers guided terrified families through burning tunnels. Medics treated species they had never even seen before. Every rescued life became a victory. Every screamed silence became a promise. And above it all, Admiral Rian Solis stood on the surface of Crothuan, watching the sky burn, waiting for the message that mattered most. Core team to Admiral Solis were inside. The engineers had reached the heart of the planet, the most dangerous zone, the most impossible mission. Solis closed his eyes. Proceed. The core chamber shook violently. The engineers worked in total darkness except for the blinding red glow of unstable energy. It pulsed like a dying star, ready to explode at any moment. One engineer read the scanner and whispered, Sir, we only have 12 minutes before total planetary detonation. The lead engineer, a woman with burned gloves and shaking hands, replied, That's more time than I expected. Keep moving. They crawled across narrow metal beams, suspended over rivers of molten fire. Sweat dripped. Breathing masks cracked. The heat melted their armor. But humans were stubborn. Humans kept going. Finally, they reached the control node, an ugly machine built from bones and steel. A cruel symbol of the Vorkai mindset. Power must always be taken from the suffering of others. The lead engineer swallowed hard. All right, disable sequence starting now. She pulled open the casing. Inside were 10 glowing pylons, each one connected to a different region of the planet. To shut down the core, all 10 had to be disconnected manually. The team looked at each other. Thin smiles. Determined eyes. Let's do it. Above the planet, the Black Star fleet watched the timer decrease. 12 minutes. 11. 10. Solis remained on the surface, surrounded by freed prisoners. Some held his hands. Some leaned against him. Some looked up at him with tears running down cracked faces. Will we survive? One whispering elder asked. Solis answered honestly, I don't know. A small alien child tugged his sleeve. The same child from the broadcast, the one who had begged humanity to continue. She looked at him with a calm expression older than her years. You came for us, she whispered. That means we already won. Her words hit the Admiral harder than any weapon. Inside the core, the engineers struggled. Each pylon fought back with bursts of violent energy. Sparks burned their suits. One engineer was thrown off the platform and barely grabbed a chain. Another's visor shattered from the heat. 7 pylons done. 8. Then 9. But the 10th, it pulsed so violently that the entire chamber shook. The lead engineer stared at it. This is the anchor. If we pull it wrong, the core explodes instantly. Her team looked at her with fear and trust. She took a long breath. For Earth, she whispered. For the galaxy, another said. For the 10 million, said a third. Together, with hands shaking from exhaustion, they pulled the final pylon. The core screamed, then quieted. The red light faded. The energy streams dimmed. The meltdown countdown froze. The planet stabilized. A voice shouted over the comm. Admiral, the core is disabled. KRA Thuan is secure. The surface erupted in cheers. Solis looked at the sky with relief he hadn't felt in years. But the victory was only beginning. Across Crofton, Vorkai soldiers, those who survived, dropped their weapons. Their armor clattered to the ground. They looked around confused, terrified. For the first time in thousands of years, they were not feared. They were irrelevant. The enslaved races surrounded the remaining Vorkai soldiers. But instead of attacking, they stepped back, because humanity had already delivered the punishment. Above them, the Oblivion sent out Earth's final message. We do not erase civilizations out of hate. We erase tyranny. With the entire Vorkai military defeated, their superweapon destroyed, and their core deactivated, the Empire collapsed overnight. Millions of prisoners were evacuated. Every torture chamber was destroyed. Every slave chain was broken. And then, the last act, the Vorkai government broadcast was overridden. A single message replaced their entire network. Your reign ends today. Human ships unleashed precision orbital strikes, destroying only military strongholds, not civilian homes. For the first time in history, war was justice. Crofton fell. The Dominion died. But the galaxy lived. When the dust settled, Admiral Solis stood aboard the Oblivion, looking out the viewport at the liberated planet. Hundreds of alien ships, rescued species, flew in formation around the human fleet. The little alien girl stood beside him. Are you going home now? She asked softly. Solis nodded. Yes, but we will come back if anyone tries to hurt you again. She smiled, a small, fragile smile. The galaxy will remember today, she whispered. They will remember humans came when no one else did. Solis placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. No, he corrected. They will remember why we came. 2 weeks later, across the galaxy, the story spread. Humanity had saved millions. Humanity had destroyed tyranny. Humanity had changed the rules of the stars. Every empire rewrote their laws. Every council changed its policies. Every species looked at Earth with new eyes, not just with fear, but with respect. Because humans were no longer the fragile newcomers of the galaxy. They were the guardians. The final scene shows a child on Earth looking up at the night sky. Her father tells her, "Those stars look peaceful tonight." The girl shakes her head gently. No, Papa, they look safe. She smiles, whispering, because humans are out there now.